Hey, we're looking at Tuesday, May 1st. For those of you who are at home, we are doing the speedy version for my advanced kids. If you're a regular kid, don't bother watching this video. It's not going to make any sense to you. Basically, you have nothing there to worry about. Let's see. From there, you're going to have a bell work here in a moment. You turned in your gospel books. Make sure you bring your gospel books. You can turn it in to me. We did talk about our e-learning. And so on the e-learning, I sent out the remind yesterday. So make sure you take a look at that. It'll be due in about a week. It's on my front page of my website where you go to MrBroviCast.com, scroll down, hit the button, it brings up. You're going to have to create your very own meme. You're going to connect it to gospel, or technically you could connect it to Princess Bride now. If you want to, that's fine with me. And then you're going to have to create a meme, and you're going to write a little explanation about a paragraph explaining how that meme goes. My goal is to put it on my website next year for kids to be able to read. So we're going to try and educate kids in the future about stuff. Then, you get to a bell work, which you can pause now if you need to, so you get a chance to write it down, because I'm not going to be there too long. But you have 5 statements you're going to tell me if you agree or disagree with. One says, any book with the words wife, bride, woman, or princess, and the title is a girly book. Fairy tales are always happy stories. No one dies in happy books. Good always triumphs over evil in stories. And 5, getting revenge will make you feel better about a situation. You're going to tell me why you agree or disagree with each one, so now we hit pause when you come back in and join us. Also, and we'll pause now. Welcome back. Hopefully you wrote down your little answers. I'm so proud of you. We're also handing out your own copy of this over here. This book called The Princess Bride. You're going to get your own copy of that, and that's what we're going to be getting into today. Jonathan.
All right. Is this book a better love story than Twilight?
Oh yeah. I mean, Twilight's not a bad love story. That's a different story. But yeah, this one's much better.
Okay.
As far as that goes. Interesting comparison to make. All right. Now, background information on here with The Princess Bride. You guys know what historical fiction is?
Yeah!
So, here's how this book is. It was written like 100 years ago by a guy by the name of Simon Morgenstern, because there were these 2 countries that were fighting, Gilder and Florin, and he basically tried to write a historical fiction piece about it. But he had a bit of a sense of humor to it, so when he wrote it making fun of things. So he tried to set up his countries like they're part of this fairy tale. And so he sets it up as a satire of a fairy tale. So we're going to get into it. There's humor in the book. If you've seen the movie, you'll understand sort of how the humor works. If you've not seen the movie, then we'll do our best to try and explain how it goes into it. But a satire is where basically you use irony or something like that to make fun of something. Those are the different types of satire. We're not officially going to get into all that. I just wanted to show them to you so that you can be aware of them. I see you, just ignoring you for now. And so you have the 4 different types of satire. You are familiar with satire because you've seen it before with fairy tales. This is not satire. This is called retellings. Most of the Disney movies you've seen, that's just where you take a fairy tale and you just do that same version over again. A satire is where you add something to the story to make fun of the genre in some way. Like, let's say instead of the prince being big and strong and handsome, he's short and annoying and he's the villain of the story. Or instead of the bad guy being like an ogre, you have the ogre become the good guy in a story. And he's the one that you follow. Oh, so you've seen these before. And so that would be an idea of a satire, where it makes fun of things. Hoodwinked, if you've never seen that one also. Shame on you. Great movie.
It's a good movie.
Okay, that you're wrong. And so it's the same idea where it took the idea of Little Red Riding Hood and turned it more into like a CSI episode where you sort of apply that satire to it. He did the same thing here. Problem is, his writing of it came out to be like 1,000 pages long. We're not doing the 1,000-page version because it was also 1,000 pages, and he took a lot of funny bits and then spread them out with a lot of boring bits. So this guy, William Goldman, went back and took out all the boring bits and sort of condensed it down to the much, much, much shorter version. We're reading the much shorter version. Yeah. I know, you're like, Mr. Broviak, that thing is still a brick the size of... I know. Trust me, still shorter than the original one. And then the even shorter version of this is called the movie. But that cut out even more from there. So that's what we're going to end up getting into. The 2 countries, Florin and Gilder, I don't know social studies places. It's over there in Eastern Europe. I don't think they're around now because Eastern Europe keeps changing all the time. All I know is they created a good story. making fun of this princess because there was a king at the time, because 100 years ago everybody had kings. And so that's what we're going to get into. Braden.
Green.
I was ignoring you before, but now I was going to call on you. But now you're staring at me.
Is there any like dry humor that just will shrivel up?
Oh, there's a lot of dry humor.
Oh, good.
And they do a lot of mocking humor where their humor is like making fun of things.
Oh, perfect.
There'll be a lot of times, as far as the humor goes, we'll have times where you're not going to be sure if you should laugh or not. You'll be like, that feels funny, but mean at the same. It's funny. And so it'll be okay just to give into it because a lot of their humor is making fun of people. Not like you, but like making fun of the characters and stuff like that. Sandy.
How long ago was that?
How long ago was this?
No, that.
That?
Yeah.
I don't
2
remember.
million.
That's just a current map. I don't remember what it is.
Current
That's 2004.
Yeah. Sure. I didn't actually try it.
Like when those countries actually.
I don't know. I didn't care enough to find out. Sorry. I just like the writing and the reading parts, not the history boring bits. Sorry, not for me. Then, if you open up the front page, you get a nifty little map in there. Florin and Gilder were across like this little channel from each other. So all these are going to be scenes that pop up. Once again, if you've seen the movie, you'll recognize different things from being in there. If you've not seen the movie, it's not going to kill you.
Nice.
Then, this version of it has 2 introductions we're going to just skip. So you're going to, by the way, if you've seen the movie, the introductions are really cool because they give you background on how the actors got their jobs, on a whole bunch of like background, like the different roles and stuff like that. So you get to the one that says Introduction to the 30th Anniversary Edition. Really cool information, but I'm assuming not all of you have seen the movie, so we're going to skip that for now. If you like the movie, I highly recommend reading it. You're going to keep going. You're eventually going to get Introduction to the 25th Anniversary, I think.
Yeah.
Keep going. Introduction to the 25th Anniversary. Also, if you've seen the movie, really cool information, but I'm assuming you've not, so we're going to skip that also. And you're going to eventually get to one that says, it says just Princess Bride. It'll just say The Princess Bride. That's where it's going to officially start. The problem is, it's going to start with an introduction. But this is an introduction we have to read. Because years ago, even before I had Warmus in class, so right around dinosaur times, I had a class that complained about reading this introduction because it's going to be really weird and it's going to throw you off. But skipping that introduction makes the rest of the story confusing. Because what happened is the guy, William Goldman, he went through and cut out big chunks of the Princess Bride S. Morgenstern's version, and he sort of cut them out and put them together with little explanations. If I don't read the introduction, it doesn't make sense going through and reading it. And so every time I've tried to do it, kids just get confused and it makes their brains hurt. So the good news is I'm going to read it to you. We'll go through it as quickly as possible. I'll explain things as best we can, and then we'll get to the actual princessing and briding and princes and stuff like that. All right. Ooh, by the way, quick side note. William. Do you guys know what the nickname for someone whose name is William is?
Will.
Ooh, Will is one. There's another one.
Willie.
Billy.
Ooh. By the way, there was a guy way back in like the 1800s who was a gunfighter named William the Kid, but you probably know him by a different name.
Billy the Kid.
Billy the
John
Kid.
Cena.
Billy. Look at that. Colton, get rid of points. Nicely done. Billy is also a nickname for it. So for William, you have Will, Billy, stuff like that. Because in here, he's going to refer to himself as Billy. When he was little, he's like, when I was a little boy named Billy. And I had kids go, was that a different person? I'm like, no. The nickname for William is Billy.
Why?
Yes.
Just a random thing. One of my friends, he moved away to Fort Wayne, but one of my friends is actually like, Billy the Kid was one of his relatives or something. Ryan.
What
Yeah.
a small world. Alright, so this first part is just William Goldman, the guy who rewrote this version, talking to us. Says, alright, this is my favorite book in all the world, but I've never actually read it. Okay, how is such a thing possible? I'll do my best to explain. As a child, I had simply no interest in books. I hated reading. I was very bad at it. And besides, how could you take the time to read when there were games that shrieked for playing? Basketball, baseball, marbles. I could never get enough. I wasn't even good at them. But give me a football and an empty playground, and I could invent last-second triumphs that bring tears to your eyes. School was torture. Miss Roginski, who was my teacher for the 3rd through 5th grades, would have meeting after meeting with my mother. I don't feel Billy is perhaps extending himself quite as much as he might. Or, when we test him, Billy does really exceptionally well, considering his class standing. Or most often, I don't know, Mrs. Goldman, what are we going to do about Billy? What are we going to do about Billy? That was the phrase that haunted me those first 10 years. I mean, I pretended not to care, but secretly, I was petrified. Everyone and everything was passing me by. I had no Gesundheit, real friends, no single person who shared an equal interest in all games. I seemed busy, but I suppose, if pressed, I might have admitted that, for all my frenzy, I was very much alone. What are we going to do about you, Billy? I don't know, Miss Roginski. How could you have failed this reading test? I've heard you use every word with my own ears. I'm sorry, Miss Roginski. I must not have been thinking. You're always thinking, Billy. You just weren't thinking about the reading test. I can only nod. What was it this time? I don't know. I can't remember. Was it Stanley Hack again? Okay. Stan Hack was the Cubs' third baseman for these and many other years. I saw him play once from a bleacher seat, and even at that distance, he had the sweetest smile I've ever seen. And to this day, I swear he smiled at me several times. I just worshipped him. He could also hit a ton. Bronco Nagurski, he's a football player. A great football player. And the paper last night said he might come back and play for the Bears again. He retired when I was little. But if he came back and I could get someone to take me to a game, I could see him play. And maybe if whoever took me also knew him, I could meet him after. And maybe if he was hungry, I might let him have a sandwich I might have brought with me. I was trying to figure out what kind of sandwich Bronco Nagurski would like. She just sagged at her desk. You've got a wonderful imagination, Billy. Just makes you fully realize the reason why he was not paying attention in class was imagining that a football player he might get a chance to meet might be hungry for a sandwich, and he might have a sandwich in his pocket that might be the one the football player might want. So he's trying to imagine what kind of sandwich he would have in his pocket. Very common thing that kids have issues with. Needless to say, as we find out, William Goldman, the guy who did this, when he was a kid, hated school. Then why does he become an author? That's what he's going to explain to you. It's the fact that this book, Princess Bride, is what turned him from a kid who hated school into like this best-selling author. He's just going to give you like a little blurb about why it happened. I don't know what I said. Probably thank you or something. I can't harness it though, she went on. Why is that? I think it's probably I need glasses, and I don't read because the words are fuzzy. Well, that would explain why I'm all the time squinting. Maybe if I went to an eye doctor who could give me glasses, I'd be the best reader in class, and you wouldn't have to keep me after school so much. She just pointed behind her. Get to work cleaning the blackboards, Billy. Yes, ma'am. I was the best at cleaning blackboards. By the way, which means how often does he have to do it?
Every day.
There you go. Tells us a little something about him.
Wait, they punished him for having bad grades, like the teacher did?
Oftentimes, if you were an issue kid, they'd make you clean the blackboards at the end of the
Maybe
day.
a child.
Like the teachers, I thought, but she was saying like he got a bad grade.
He did. I don't know why.
He didn't do anything wrong.
Teachers are weird. He back talked her.
Teacher, no one likes
Like, I'm
Get to
doing
work cleaning the blackboards, Billy. Yes, ma'am. I was the best at cleaning blackboards. Do they look fuzzy? Miss Roginski said after a while. Oh, no, I just made that up. I never squinted either, but she just seems so whipped about it. She always did. It's been going on for 3 grades now. I'm just not getting through to you somehow. It's not your fault, Miss Roginski. It wasn't. Oh, I just worshipped her, too. She was all dumpy and fat, but I used to wish she'd been my mother. Now, I could never make that really come out right unless she'd been married to my father first, and then they'd gotten divorced, and my father had married my mother, which was okay because Miss Roginski had to work. So my father got custody of me, and that all made sense, only they never seemed to know each other, my dad and Miss Roginski. Whenever they'd meet each year during the Christmas pageant, when all the parents came, I'd watch the two of them like crazy, hoping for some kind of secret glimmer or look that could only mean, well, how are you? How's your life been going since our divorce? But no soap. She wasn't my mother. She was just my teacher, and I was her own personal and growing disaster area. You're going to be all right, Billy. Oh, I sure hope so, Miss Roginski. You're a late bloomer, that's all. Winston Churchill was a late bloomer. So are you. I was about to ask her who he played for, but there was something in her tone that made me know enough not to. And Einstein. Him, I also didn't know. Or what a late bloomer was either. But boy, did I ever want to be one. By the way, you know what team Churchill and Einstein played for?
Science.
Nicely done. Well, the one of them was like a leader of a country, but sir, and then Einstein was science. So neither one of them was a baseball player.
A-ball.
There you go. All right, this is him. Now we're doing. All right, here's where it gets confusing. We're doing a flashback to when he was a kid. Now we're doing a flash forward in his flashback to when he was older, but still in the past. Yes. So we're just not flashed as far back. When I was 26, my first novel, The Temple of Gold, was published by Alfred A. Knopf, which is now part of Random House, which is now part of RCA, which is just part of what's wrong with publishing in America today, which is not part of the story. Anyway, before publication, the publicity people at Knopf were talking to me, trying to figure out what they could do to justify their salaries, and they asked, who did I want to send advanced copies to that might be an opinion maker? And I said, I didn't know anybody like that. And they said, think. Everybody knows somebody. So I got all excited because the idea just came to me. I said, oh, okay. Send a copy to Miss Roginski, which I figure was logical and terrific because if anybody had made my opinions, she did. She's all through my first book, The Temple of Gold, by the way. It's just I called her Miss Patulski. Even then, I was creative. Who? This publicity lady said. This old teacher of mine. You send her a copy and I'll sign it. Maybe write a little... I was really excited and this publicity guy interrupted with, we were thinking of someone more on the national scene. Alright, so what he's talking about is when he got his first book published. If you open your book to that first page in here, where it has like little blurbs from famous people, where it's like, Stephen King says you should read this book because it's awesome, just like me. That's what they're saying, like, hey, let's get a blurb from the front of your book. Who do you want to have write it? And he's like, ooh, my third grade teacher. They're like, that's not who writes blurbs in books. He's like, but I really liked her. So that's what he's going for. And that's where we stop with him talking about how awesome teachers are.
Oh!
Delicious.
Unpopular opinion.
Now, don't put your book away because you're getting ready to give it to me.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Don't get too excited.
I don't trust you with the magnificent...
Stoppy Stopperson.